In theaters now is Francis Ford Coppola's decades in the making personal passion project, Megalopolis, starring Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, which took me a while to realize that's who it was, Nathalie Emmanuel, Jon Voight, Dustin Hoffman, Midnight Cowboy Reunion, Talia Shire briefly, Jason Schwartzman, D.B. Sweeney, James Remar, and Laurence Fishburne, who also narrates. There's been a lot of talk about this movie. This is a film that Coppola had wanted to make for years. He believed in this movie. He put his own money into making this movie. It's got a lot of very diverse opinions. Most are not good on this. And in some screenings, it had a segment of the film where Adam Driver essentially talks to a live member of the audience, an actor that was hired to come up and ask a question or answer a question or something. The screening I went to did not feature that. I did see this in IMAX, and I will say, probably by the time you see this, the thing about IMAX is anything that's released in IMAX gets knocked out by the next big release that comes out, whether the film is intended for IMAX or not. This seems like it was, because it did fill the screen top to bottom, or at least IMAX was taken into consideration when it was shot. So what is this movie about? I'm not going to tell you the whole story, because frankly, there's not a lot of story to it. There is. I always just say that. This film is basically trying to equate the fall of American society with the fall of the Roman Empire. So it takes place in, clearly it's New York City, or Megalopolis is a subset of it, but it's called New Rome. And there is essentially the equivalent of, the emperor and the people who want to be the emperor, and all of the sometimes literal backstabbing that it takes, where somebody who's younger and not heir to the throne wants to take the throne. But it's all set in a slightly futuristic world where it's pretty dystopian. There are the haves who have a lot and the have-nots who do not. And Driver plays this guy who's sort of an architect. He has discovered this new, I believe it's called Megalon, which is just kind of hilarious. But if you're a Godzilla fan especially, he has discovered this new substance with which you can do amazing things. And he's going to build this utopian city within the city for all to enjoy and be able to thrive and work and live and teach and learn and love. And the people above him do not want that. Giancarlo Esposito is the man who runs the city boss, as it were. Nathalie Emmanuel is his daughter, and Jon Voight is the other sort of city boss or mayor or whatever, and his nephew, I believe, is Shia LaBeouf, and Adam Driver is related. Their last name is Crassus, and it's really kind of silly. Sorry. I admire Coppola. He made some of the best films of all time. He has a certain sensibility and air of quality to him. But the last thing I saw from Coppola was a film called Twixt that I thought was terrible. And the trailers for this did not make this look much better. And it's kind of very self-important. It's very indulgent. It is narrated by Larry Fishburne in this like Shakespearean tones, and there are these on-screen titles that come up every once in a while, like chiseled into stone. Again, that whole fall of ancient Rome kind of thing, trying to equate modern society with, we've built it up too much and too many people have power and it's going to all fall apart. We're too debauched and self-indulgent and all that. And it really kind of hits you over the head with that. The performances in it, Nathalie Emmanuel was good. I think part of it is some of the dialogue was just laughably bad. And some of the performances felt just bad from good people. And a lot of the time I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? Because this is really silly and this is really cheesy. And 90% of the time, what is Shia LaBeouf doing? He is just wild in this film. And some might view that as a great performance. Some might view it as not. I don't know, but it's a lot of performance. The film looks good overall. Some of the effects are not great, but it certainly has a look to it. But it also, at the same time, it feels very small. I think it was probably filmed very small. I think a lot of it, the wider shots you get, a lot of it is interiors and people talking passionately about things, and maybe occasionally a large set. There is something that looks like they went to medieval times, but they were shooting chariot races and things like that. That's a larger set, but I think a lot of it was very intimate and probably utilizing the kind of technology that Lucas utilizes to make areas and crowds look bigger digitally than they really are. It It's not a mainstream movie. I mean, it's pumped out into mainstream theaters. Again, by the time this goes out, it's probably not going to be playing much of anywhere, but it was on the IMAX screens and the Dolby screens and the premium PLF, premium large format that they talk about now. But it's an art house movie. It's really a movie for an art house audience, if there's an audience for it at all. It was a long film. It's, how long is this film while I check? 2 hours and 18 minutes. It felt a lot longer than that. It's a lot of it, I think, rests on how much you enjoy Adam Driver, because he's right up front and center in this. It's nice to see some of these actors in this movie, but boy, it really feels bad to me. You know, not everybody has gas in the tank for the entirety of their life as an artist. And I think sometimes artists have that drive and that will and that spark. And as they grow, nobody's the same person they were 50 plus years ago. It's just how it is. And to expect another Godfather or another Apocalypse Now out of the same person who made those things in the early to mid 70s, you're not the same person. Your worldview changes. And what we see now is what represents Coppola's worldview now, or what it's been for the last couple decades, because apparently this is like 40 years in the making. Had this movie been made in the 30s, or the 40s, this would probably be considered a classic now. It would be considered a classic now. Same dialogue, contemporary effects that the studio craftsmen could have gotten in their day. This would probably be a movie now, if this was made in the 30s or 40s, that people are talking about and analyzing and saying it's flawed, but it's great. But that dialogue and that kind of performance and this kind of movie now, I don't think audiences can connect with it. You know, I went in not expecting much because I thought Twixt was really not good, and this looked like more of that kind of tone. But I was hopeful, you know. I didn't go in thinking I was going to get another Godfather. My bar was set by Twixt, okay? This wasn't a heck of a lot better than that, unfortunately. Now, if you liked Twixt and you were cool with what he did there and his style and his way of doing things now, then maybe you'll like this. I'm sure there are people who really like Megalopolis. It's not for normal people. It's not for a mainstream audience at all. This is really for the egghead, and I don't mean that in a bad way, the thinking person, art house crowd who's willing to take a weird ride and analyze things and all that. But for me, personally, I thought it was pretty bad. So it is what it is. It's Megalopolis, soon probably to be streaming, and yeah. And I don't know if you really actually get that reunion. You don't get a scene with Voight and Hoffman. I think they're in the same scene, but you don't really get them together. So you never get that, you know, Joe Buck meets Ratso moment in the film. But anyway, Megalopolis,